Hi, everybody. I am going to figure this out again. Last time it didn't make a big thing so that I could see comments, and now I see that getting started. I'm just going to take a minute for Facebook to figure itself out. Okay, it looks like we're on. Okay, so thank you for tuning in to this fourth live session here in the Peace Building Conspirators Facebook group. Also, if you are tuning in to the recording later, thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about this topic, and thank you for the work that you're doing to build real peace in your corner of the world. So before I get started, I wanted to address a really awesome comment that was left in the Peace Building Conspirators Facebook group. Hi, Marilee. Thanks for tuning in. There was a really fantastic comment in the Facebook group yesterday about the word peace and what that means. And I shared that I'm a Mennonite, and so I am very familiar with that word, the concept of peace and what that means, different from silence that just, is devoid of passion. Like when we sacrifice our perspective in favor of like, well, now it's calm. That's not the kind of peace I'm talking about. Hi, Aunt Janine. Thanks for being here. I love you. So I think it's good to point out what this word peace means to me. And when I chose to call this group Peace Building Conspirators, what was the thought behind that? Because I know that, right now we are living in a world that uses the expression no justice, no peace as a rallying cry. And, it's interesting because I understand the sentiment, the spirit of that phrase. And so I know when you hear me saying peace, for some of you, as you expressed yesterday, that word sounds like everyone calm down. Everyone just calm down, and that's not what we're doing here. So I wanted to be really clear that when I talk about peace, I am talking about the peace that we talk about in the Mennonite faith tradition. That is a peace that is present with justice, a peace that is about a dignifying world for everyone, a peace that is about love and justice and provision of needs and people having what they need. Okay, so that when I talk about peace, that's what I'm talking about. So when I talk about peace building, I'm talking about building that. I'm talking about working together to build that. And conspirators is about this idea of, the temptation right now to commiserate, the temptation to spread misery, to together, miserate, be miserable. And boy, is that a temptation right now. And what I want to be about is conspiration, conspiring together. So that S-P-I-R, that Latin root means breath. It means breathe. So when I say conspire, I'm saying let's together breathe some fresh air into our country, into our families, into our neighborhoods, and collaborate to build something that honors all of us, okay? So that's what this group is about, and I wanted to just clarify that up top. Because I thought that was a great point that one of the members made yesterday about the word peace and wanting to be sure that what we're aiming for isn't just a quiet silence that is anything but peace. Okay, that's not what we're shooting for. So the next thing I want to do is just head into this content. So today we're talking about this word depolarization. And, what does that word mean exactly? As I have established, it's not just calm down, sacrifice what you're passionate about, sacrifice your causes, in favor of us all coming to some sort of flaccid unity that, what does it even mean at that point? That's not what we're talking about. So the first thing I wanted to do was cover the why of this group, which is, restoration of relationships, restoration of families, and ultimately restoration of, our country and building peace in our country as a whole. But truly, I believe that happens on an individual level. So a big focus of this group is building relationships and restoring relationships that have been damaged because of political division, and really equipping you guys with resources and tools, and just kind of like this improv framework for knowing how to do that, how to be authentic in relationships where there has been hurt in the past, and how to do the work of reconciliation. So that's kind of the why of this group. I believe that work of healing in relationships will equip us to create healing in our country. So that's the why of this group. And then the what of depolarization. So depolarization, it's not this flaccid unity that we talked about. It is about civility. It is about the ability to detoxify and devenomize our perspective. It is about our ability to stop hating or just, what is the word that I need? Fearing and resenting people on the other side of the aisle so completely. It is about that. And you might be wondering, like, what does that do? And so one of the things that I heard in the discussion yesterday was this feeling of, but I can justify it. But it is justifiable to hate right now. It is justifiable. I can point to reasons that make me say, but this is a hate-worthy thing that has happened in front of me. And so I can empathize with that. I think everybody can. I think we can all think of times that we've been in a situation where the hurt was so deep, the pain was so visceral, that we felt a justification of our hatred. What I chiefly aim to be about and to perpetuate in the world is an understanding that we move the needle in the direction that we aim to move it when we choose attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, choose a foundation, an emotional foundation for ourselves that is not based on what we can justify, but is based on grace, really, is based on knowing of a deeper truth. And, we don't all share the same faith tradition in this group, which I think is beautiful, because I know that there are people from so many different faith traditions that understand this concept of rerooting in a deeper truth and extending grace. And grace is about love when it's not deserved. And I don't know about you guys, but I know that I've needed grace in the past. So while we can justify the reaction that we have to certain behaviors, I think the invitation and I think the opportunity is to make a different choice anyway, to do something that is radically different than what we feel, than our knee-jerk reaction, that to me is the work of depolarization. That's what it is. And why it matters is that we need each other. The things that we care the most about, we can't accomplish in our echo chambers. I really believe that. That is more than a nice sounding thing to me. And just to kind of drive that point home, I thought it might be helpful to give some specific examples. And so while the things that I've just said about restoring unity and extending grace, while some of those things might sound like nice, but there is certainly room to wonder, okay, well, Andrea, what does that do? Like, what is the actionable, tangible, outcome, of making those kinds of choices? And what I think it is are movement towards this beautiful, just, equitable world that we're talking about. So some specific examples for me are protecting the environment, sensible gun control, eradication of white supremacy thinking. I have some ideas for specific policy changes that I would love to see happen in the way that we are represented and in the way that we vote. What I'd love, if you are live with me right now and you're willing to share, what are some specific things that you would love to see happen as a result of your work in depolarization? So if you think about what would it be like for me to get to the place where I can have civil conversation with people who have a different political worldview than I do? What would it be like for me to have specific conversations with those people? I would love to hear from you. What are specific things that you would love to be able to do with a surprising scene partner? In improv, we call the person that you're building a scene with a scene partner. And one of the things that I hope this group will accomplish is to help us realize that we can have surprising scene partners, surprising collaborators in our efforts to build something really beautiful together. So if you can think about that and share in the comments, I would love to hear from you. What are some specific things, specific outcomes that you would love to achieve by collaborating with somebody across the aisle? part of the reason why we can't get important things done is partisan gridlock, you know? So if we were able to get rid of that and we were able to make progress that we can agree on together on critical issues, what would those things be? What are those things for you? I've thought different times about specific things I'd love to see change for kids that are in foster care waiting to be adopted. How can we, there are several specific changes I'd love to see in the way that we honor and dignify these children. Right now, there are logistics that are causing them to have to wait way longer than is necessary, even when there are families ready to adopt them, just because of some outdated thinking on family relationships and dynamics. So there are things like that for me, some very specific. So I'd love to hear from you if there are specific things that you can imagine accomplishing if we were to get rid of the partisan gridlock in our country. So that's what it is for me. I have very specific outcomes in mind that I think we can accomplish through depolarization. And the thing is, though, only if it's real depolarization, only if it's a sincere foundation of, only if we are doing this because of a sincere foundation of understanding that we are more alike than we are unalike. And those are words that I'm stealing from the sage poet Maya Angelou. In her poem, The Human Family, she talks about we are more alike than we are unalike. And we have to actually believe that. We have to actually believe that there are people who are sharing our heart on the other side of the political aisle. And when we can tap into that, then we will be able to really put some fire behind our work. You know, we'll be able to really make more progress than we can do right now when maybe we're saying the right things or we're holding our tongue at the right moments. But really how it is in our heart is we are resentful and suspicious of this person. We might be saying the right things, but our heart is like, be careful. So overcoming that resentment and suspicion is really critical. And that brings me to, how do we do this? So there are lots of ways to depolarize, as we were kind of talking about in the comments yesterday. How I think it starts, first of all, is with yourself. So we've talked before about the forgiveness and healing piece of this. And you've probably heard me say before that forgiveness is the most underutilized F word in America. And I stand by that. There are other things that come to mind when we are feeling angry besides the realization that this is a forgiveness opportunity. What I'm experiencing right now is a forgiveness opportunity. And it matters for us to do that work. So what I want to reiterate is that forgiveness, the way that I teach it, is not the ability to look backwards at the most painful and traumatic things that we've ever experienced and be like, I'm zen with that now. I feel good about that now. There are things that should always make us angry. I say this as a foster-adopt mom that goes to trauma therapy with my daughter. There are things that should always make us angry. So forgiveness isn't about looking to the past and just feeling fine about whatever injustice or traumatic, hurtful thing has happened. Forgiveness is about being able to look forward to the future without all of the limiting beliefs that got cemented in our minds when those traumatic or painful or hurtful things happened. So what I encourage people to do is when they are noticing that they are reliving something that made them so angry, something that deeply hurt them, they're reliving that conversation in that moment, as I caught myself doing this very morning, by the way, reliving a moment that somebody humiliated me in a college class and said that I was not smart in front of this room full of people, and just like the hot humiliation of that moment. And I remember like his exact words to me and how like deeply that cut me. And I was like reliving that moment, and I was starting to like angry peel the clementines for my kids. And I was like, all of a sudden, oh, I see what's happening to me. I'm getting sucked backwards into the past, into the shame of that moment. So what am I going to do? Follow my own dang advice. The exact things I'm always teaching other people to do. I was like, I need my own flowchart right now. So what that is interrupt that when you're replaying it in your mind and you're starting to feel your blood pressure rise. Interrupt that. What are the limiting beliefs that I am telling myself that are true about me now or limit my future capabilities because of that moment? The only reason that thing is bothering me right now is that I am holding on to an agreement that I made in that moment about myself. And so for me, it's not safe to speak up about tender issues. I'll just embarrass myself. I'm not smart enough to really make a difference. I'm not smart enough to speak my mind in a room full of men who should really be doing it. That was kind of like, it's a whole thing. We won't get into it because we don't need to spread that kind of negativity. But these limiting beliefs that I was still holding on to, like, I'm not enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough. And so what does that mean about all my work I do right now, right? So of course that's going to be affecting me in this moment of like, I have a big vision, I have a big heart for this work. And if I'm not smart enough or good enough to do it, that's a huge bummer, right? So I realized those are my limiting beliefs. I see the limiting beliefs that took root in my heart in that moment that are affecting me today. And then the next step is reroot in the deep truth. That is not true. That is not true. The things that man said about me are not true. And I have come a long way since then. I have reached a deeper understanding about so many things since then. I have propagated a sense of true curiosity in my own heart since then. I have read a lot since then. I have listened to people with different perspectives since then. I have grown a lot since then. Reroot in the deep truth. Reroot in my understanding of who I really am. Reroot in my deep understanding that when you are on your path and you are living your passion, there is nothing that is impossible. There is nothing that cannot be accomplished when you are living in your passion and you are being faithful to what God / the universe / source energy, I don't know what words you use to describe it. When you are being faithful to that deep knowing in your heart, none of that stuff matters, right? And so I felt this like wash of relief come over me. And then what did that change? I was nicer to my kids. I was not angry peeling their clementines anymore. And bigger picture, I was able to start preparing I had a call with a client earlier today, and then prepare for this meeting, prepare for the training that I'm going to be doing for a new client. I was able to do that work without this sense of needing to prove myself. Guys, when we try to do peace building work, when we try to do any work that is important to us and we are not in alignment, we are in our hearts trying to prove something, trying to prove that we're good enough, trying to prove that we're not one of the bad guys, whatever it is going to read as insincere. It's going to read as phony. It's going to read as something that's not intended. Because at the end of the day, there is nothing that is more important than your knowingness of who you really are and your ability to tap into that knowledge before you do anything else. That means before you do anything that you might be doing with good intentions, but you're doing it out of alignment. That means any peace building work. That means any confrontation. This is the reason why I teach a forgiveness first approach to confrontation. Because when you can forgive first, forgive yourself, forgive somebody else, before you head into confrontation of any kind, you no longer need to choke the life out of that conversation because you need an apology or you need closure or you need something from this person in order to be okay. When you forgive first, you are free to explore this person's understanding of the situation without fear of that rocking your boat to the point where you're going to walk away feeling unworthy, feeling despair. Do you see what I'm saying? That forgiveness first approach is so critical. It will give you the freedom that you need to engage differently in confrontation or in whatever work that you're doing. Jennifer, I see you angry peeling clementines. Thank you. I had to believe I'm not the only person that gets triggered about something and then it's like, whatever the work is that you're doing, not the ideal way to do it. So step one of depolarization, no matter what the specific work of your depolarization looks like, step one is that healing within yourself, that forgiveness within yourself that creates so much peace, so much freedom, so much clarity on what the possibilities are with your scene partner. Step two then, so once we've done this depolarization work, really it's like depolarizing yourself, Step two then is that then it can pour out into your family. And then step three is that once we've kind of engaged that step, that family step, then it can pour out into your social circle, your friends. Then after that, it can pour out into the general public. And this is where, maybe this means that you're able to engage with just random strangers. And maybe it means more like advocacy on the macro level. Everyone's approach is different. And this group is not about shaming anyone that is doing the sincere work of building peace right now. But here's what I want to call out. There is a reason why I've listed these things in this tier. Depolarize myself, then do the work in my family, then do the work in my social circle, then do the work in the general public. And the reason is that there is family relationships, for better or worse, are very difficult to sever, which means that you get more tries. You get another try and another try and another try. So if you attempt to do this work of, engaging on a sensitive subject in your family and it goes poorly, or you walk away feeling like, oh, this is just like them, or you walk away feeling like, oh, it's just like me. I froze up. I couldn't think of the thing I wanted to think of. Now I can think of 100 things I should have said. These are very natural feelings. I have talked with so very many people from so very many backgrounds about the ways that they engage confrontation professionally, socially, in their family. And these are like universally held experiences. We walk away from confrontation beating ourselves up or beating up somebody else, mentally and emotionally. And so when it's in your family, you get another try, you get another try, you get another try. Also, I have had some of the work that most restores my soul when it comes to finding the mojo or whatever to keep going, to keep trying with this huge vision of building peace in our country. Some of those moments that most restore my soul and give me the fervor and the whatever you would say to keep going and to keep trying are beautiful moments of reconciliation and deeper understanding that I've had with people in my family after approaching with this yes and confrontation flow type of way. And so if you didn't see that, you can find that flowchart in session 2. That is listed at andbeyondimprov.com/peacebuildingconspirators. You can go there and you can find all of our recordings there. So session 2, you can see that yes and confrontation flowchart. Use improv skills at key moments. Use specific curiosity cultivating questions in your confrontation to keep things moving in a productive direction. That's session 2. Session 3 is about Newton's laws of motion and how they really dictate confrontation as well. So those you can find andbeyondimprov.com/peacebuildingconspirators. Thought it'd be easy to keep things all in one spot for you. So you can find that there. There's no paywall. You can just access them. So once we are doing that with our family and really seeing these like beautiful moments of restoration and reconciliation, your family is where you have the highest likelihood of getting to actually see those beautiful growth moments happen. In your family is where there's more context for each other. There's more history together. There is such a much higher likelihood that at some point you guys can create a safe enough environment for the vulnerable work of learning and eventually get to these moments where someone says, I've never thought of that. Thank you for saying that to me. Or I've never heard that before. I need to think more about that. Thank you. Those kind of moments, or even beyond that, I have experienced of total like transition in the favor of love, in doing this work in my own family. It is very unlikely that you will get to see and experience that kind of moment with a stranger, with a random person on Facebook. It's very unlikely, and that's for several reasons. First of all, you don't have that history in that context. Second of all, you don't get multiple tries usually. Third of all, that person in that moment, it's very difficult to create the level of safety that's needed for real learning. And most of the time, it's an emotionally charged situation. And so if anything, it's just like throwing statistics at each other and, both leaving with this self-righteous energy that really deepens the divide. That's what's most likely to happen in those situations with strangers. But how often do we do this completely backwards? How often do we in our own families have these icy rules that are like no religion, no politics at the table, keep it superficial, just to be clear. How often do we have those kind of rules in our families? And then all of our passion towards seeing things get better, it has to go somewhere. And so then it flows into where? The place where the stakes are the lowest. The place where if you are hurtful, it matters the least because it's just a random stranger. And so we allow our passion for seeing things get better get channeled into the places where it is least likely to make a difference. And then we get discouraged and we get burnt out and we get resentful of the other person, the people on the other side of the aisle or whatever, you know? So this is why I think that restructuring how we think about depolarization and getting a little bit strategic about like, it is safe for me to trust the process of depolarizing myself, then allowing that healed energy to flow into my family, and then allowing that to flow into my social circle, and then allowing it to flow into the general public. I am just now getting to the place where I feel clearer on how to engage random strangers on sensitive topics. And, for a while I was just like shaming myself. Like, how somebody said something that was extremely racist to me a couple of weeks ago at the playground. And it was like in passing, my kids and I were leaving. We had our wagon loaded up and we were leaving. And I cried when I got home. I told my husband, I was like, I did not know what to do in that situation. And, I was feeling so down on myself, like, man, that was a missed opportunity. And then I was remembering, of course, the logistics of the moment. My daughter was screaming. She was hurt. We needed to get home. It was such a strange situation, and just, kind of reminding myself, like, every mom prioritizes screaming child, like, versus stranger that is trying to start a conversation with you about yawn. So I understand, that in these moments, it's easy to kind of get reactionary on the random stranger. And, I share this with you to just kind of say, like, I don't do everything perfectly either. And the point of this group is not for me to, like, bestow all of my wisdom since I am such a perfect peace builder. My intention here is truly to be like, guys, I am so desperate to see something beautiful happen. I so believe that we can. I so believe that there are people on both sides of the aisle holding this loving, beautiful vision for a racially just, dignifying, safe, beautiful country for all of us. I believe that and I know that and I've seen that. And it is just so deep in my heart to figure out how can we build a path back to each other so that we can see the end of white supremacy thinking, so that we can eradicate hate groups everywhere, so that we can get rid of single issue voting, so that we can, accomplish clear things that we can point at. I believe that when we de-venomize the conversation, when we learn how to celebrate victories without this like dropping of the hammer that like, well, it could have been better. It's like we start to see progress happen and then it's like this immediate discouragement that it wasn't a victory on every front. Do you understand that? Does that happen to you? I know it happens to me. What I want to be about is seeing forward progress, forward momentum towards a more perfect union, towards providing for the common welfare and ensuring domestic tranquility and providing for the common defense and ensuring the blessings of liberty for ourselves and the generations to come. If those words sound familiar, there's a reason for that. This was the vision that, the people that created this country were holding. And I know that we can do better. And I know that there's people from a lot of different political perspectives and faith traditions that want to see this happen, that want to see it get better. And yeah, so I just wanted to take some time today to double down on the why of this group and make sure it's just explicitly clear. And I wanted to take some time today to just talk about depolarization. And if you hear that word and it conjures for you this idea of, I just have to get an emotional lobotomy. If we're going to depolarize, I guess that means I have to calm down. I guess that means I can't care. I guess that means there's no room for human emotion. That's not what it means. I think depolarization definitely has everything to do with the content of session 3, where we talk about Newton's laws of motion and understanding, emotional momentum. And I think that depolarization does, in some ways, require us to be more strategic and less reactionary. Um, but that doesn't mean that you can't care. And that doesn't mean that you can't be carrying um, a huge vision. It doesn't mean that we have to sacrifice the specifics. That's what I wanted to say. We don't have to sacrifice the specifics. If anything, I think our courage in saying out loud what we want to accomplish and trusting that that's not going to create partisan warfare, that is going to allow people to realize, maybe let me say this differently. It will extend an invitation to people from a variety of walks of life to say, I want that too. I want that too. I'll be your scene partner. I'll work with you. And, if we aren't willing to do this work of like internal depolarization first, we will miss out on the opportunity to build something with each other. And, yesterday I shared this in the comments and I'll share it publicly here too. Part of the reason why, so one group member shared a story about people actually here in the greater Pittsburgh area that were written about in the Wall Street Journal, who one family have a Biden Harris poster in the front yard, one family have a Trump sign in the front yard, one family is biracial, one family is white, mostly from Pittsburgh. The other family, the dad, at least, the article didn't go into everyone's background, but the dad at least was raised in New York City. Totally different life experiences. And they put signs in their front yard about their political candidate. And then next to it, they put a sign that has a heart and an arrow pointing at the other house. And they were just talking about how like deeply their friendship supersedes like the fear and the resentment around each other's political candidate. And there was really a mix of reactions to that in this group. And one of the things that I shared is that part of the reason why I so believe in, not needing someone to be good enough to be my friend or be woke enough to be my friend is that I'm so thankful nobody was waiting on that for me. Because when I went to college, I did not understand the ways that my worldview, the ways that some of the beliefs and the behaviors that I was holding on to were so contrary to the identity that I truly had. I did not understand. I did not understand the ways in which my homophobia, racial condescension, it was accidental. It was not something I consciously understood. And that's because of privilege. But I'm so thankful that there were people who were willing to grow with me, who were willing to see me and see the things that I was saying and doing and believing, et cetera, et cetera. And instead of being like, oh, I know what kind of person that is, and lumping labels on me, what I want to be clear about is that people would have had plenty of evidence to point to say she's a racist, she's a bigot, she's a religious fanatic. They would have had plenty of evidence. To be clear, I sent emails around my campus that Barack Obama was the Antichrist. That's what I was doing at that time of my life. And there were people who were willing to be my friend anyway and to grow with me and to share perspectives with me that I would not have known otherwise. And I'm so thankful for that because I have friendships in my life that are so meaningful to me that only exist because other people helped me lessen my fear. Other people helped me lessen this narrow rigidity that was keeping me back, that was holding me back. So our willingness to look past the evidence that we have to say, I know what kind of person that is. Our willingness to rise above that and say, but you know what? I've been that person too. I have been that person too. There are people in my world from high school, from college, from my neighborhood, whatever, who can point at me and be like, she's mean. I can point at this piece of evidence, this piece of evidence. There are people that we've all been that person to somebody. Somebody somewhere has an opinion of you based on real evidence, and they could decide what kind of person you are and be done with you. I need grace. The reason that I feel so passionately about extending grace, undeserved love to other people is because I have needed that. I have benefited from other people's willingness to let their friendship with me not be conditional upon my ability to be good enough or woke enough, etc., etc. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful for that. And so this is the deal, guys. What we have all around us are imperfect scene partners, and I am one of them. And I guess the question is, can we see the evidence that we give each other every dang day? That evidence that says, I don't know as much as you about this, or I haven't had experiences that have led me to the same conclusions that you have. We give each other evidence every day, and we can give each other all different kind of labels. Are we willing to know that information and be a friend anyway, a real friend? And there's a lot in our world right now that is encouraging us to put on our war paint, and decide where we stand and take a stand. And while there is something it feels so empowering, and it feels so like safe to be a part of something. I just often wonder to what extent our passion is pulling us apart from each other, and one thing that I've become fond of saying is please, 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 please don't peddle hate in the name of love. Don't perpetuate hate in the name of love, right? And I think one of the most courageous things that we can do right now is decide that even when people give us evidence of what labels we might be able to throw at them, to say, I can be your friend anyway, because I've been that person too. And my love is too big to get antagonized into hate. And I know that imperfect people can build really amazing things together. Our choice will never be between an imperfect and a perfect scene partner. Our choice is always going to be to decide to collaborate with people even though they're imperfect, and to decide to keep trying even when we know that we've been the ones to mess it up. So with that, I will sum it up for today. I will conclude. Thank you guys for being here. I will read your comments and reply to them throughout the day. There is a lot that we can do to make our country a better place, and most of it starts with the humility to be loving and understanding and open to people, even when they've given us a lot of evidence that would allow people in our echo chambers to applaud if we were mean, to applaud if we stuck a label on them and severed that relationship and moved on. Yeah, I love you guys. Big love to you. Thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to all of the wonderful things that we are going to build together. Bye, guys.